So, let's talk about Kino Loy. Yeah, that's his name. Andy Serkis is back. And he's Kino Loy. And I'm the foreman. And I'm getting out of here. No, you're not.
Yeah.
The whole prison saga
Andy
is
Serkis
amazing.
is brilliant. Like, you could have made...
You really could have cast anybody in that role.
Those 3 episodes, the whole prison thing, you could have made that its own movie.
Yeah.
And it would have been it would have been fine. It would have been great. You know, like the episode where they escape is probably my favorite.
That's episode 10, and that's... Yeah, I mean, it's just because it's everything Star Wars needs to be. You're escaping an impossible situation. There's good action in it. Restrained action in it, right? They don't go crazy with explosions and whatever.
It doesn't need to.
I'm just saying, yeah, you don't need to. That you show restraint, it actually makes it better. Like, the less is more. Because I'm sure they had a good budget. You know, there's still a lot of CGI. A limited CGI, but...
You know, but what is this episode really about? You know, it's about...
Escaping.
It's about believing in something.
Yes.
You know, he's in that prison, and Andy Serkis's character, you know, Kino Loy, you know, he's
been there a while.
He's lost all hope. He's just playing along, and you know, his whole attitude is just, you know, everybody just get on program and do what I tell you, so that hopefully someday I can get out of here.
Well, no, he's only got what, 12 rotations or something.
Yeah, and it's just his character. It's like he refuses to believe that. You know, it's like he's in disbelief when, you know, Andor starts telling him like, you know, that's not how it works. Nobody's getting out of here.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't what it seems to be. And then, you know, when he finally realizes that, at first he's like, well, then it's just hopeless. You know,
he gives up.
Like he gives up.
Like whatever.
But then, you know, what Andor is obviously, you know, everywhere Andor goes, rebellion follows. Everywhere he goes, he turns it upside down. That's just what his character does.
Like one of the first things he does is start slicing out a pipe in the restroom.
Yeah, so everywhere Andor goes, he's completely rebelling against authority. So
I'll open up the water.
Yeah, but what he really does is he convinces Andy Serkis and all these other people that, you know, we can escape.
We need to fight back.
You know, because what they say is like, you know, the Empire isn't all powerful.
They've gotten lazy.
You know,
is what has happened.
They're not all powerful.
Yeah.
They just make it seem like that, so that people will give in to their authority. You know, they don't have enough guards to keep us in here, and they know it.
And they show it too a couple times. So they're kind of subtly showing it, like, you know, hey, where's Bob or whatever? And they're like, oh well, it took me a while to get up here. You know, there's not many people down there. Because it's all a front.
Yeah, they do a good job, you know, like the people who play the Imperial officers and all that.
Guards, everybody.
They do a good job of giving you that impression that they all work all the time. You know, they're a little bit understaffed. They got that we've been understaffed all week vibe to them. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like he tells us, it's like, you know, why would they fry an entire floor if they really had this all under control?
Yeah, they could literally flip a switch. The floor is lava. This is a comment you made. And then if you're touching it, you die because you get it just is electrocution under there. And then that's why everyone is barefoot constantly, except the guards who have special, you know,
get those moon boots.
Got moon boots on. So they have all these fail safes.
So Andor convinces Andy Serkis, who, he convinces everybody else that, we have to give it a shot.
He empowers him to take charge.
We have to try and escape, or we're all just going to die. So it's like, let's just, but he tells him too, it's like, well, in my mind, I'm already dead then. So yeah sure, we'll just do it. So Andy, I think he just, it's like, well, I'm probably going to die, but, hey, we'll go out with a bang, So they mastermind this escape, and it's like, it's all these barefoot guys against these armed Imperial guys, it's just like, get on the tables, go over here, go over there. And then they make their way to the control room, and then the best scene in the whole movie, the whole show, for me, is when Andy Serkis, talks to the whole facility. And at first he doesn't want to do it. He's like, he's like, he's suddenly thrust into being he's been a leader of men this whole time, but as a form of function. Now he's thrust into, leading men out of an impossible situation.
And Andor tells him, he's like, they need to hear your voice. They've heard your voice.
It's like, it has to be you. Nobody knows who I am.
Yeah. Right. So he helps him along and gives him...
And it's brilliant. It's inspiring. All these guys running around yelling, "One way out! One way out!"
Oh, it's great. And then they brought back, they don't always have the traditional stormtrooper rifle. They have like that smaller type one with sort of the bent nose. It's just a minor detail. I'm sure all the breakdown channels brought up. Oh, actually, they're using this model instead of that model. But again, it's the people that wrote the show understand Star Wars. And so they're like, well, yeah, they wouldn't use that blaster. They'd use that blaster or whatever. That type of thing. But yeah. So then it's one way out. They're following Andy Serkis is just marching. Everyone's marching. They're going through. And at one point, you actually see all the guards cowering.
Yeah, they're all hiding in a room.
Yeah, but then they get to the water.
And they finally get to the top. And it's just like, oh, well, that really seems hopeless. But then, Andor says, he's like, look.
One way out.
He's like, look, even if, I forget exactly what he says, but, they get to the top. And he's like, look, even if we all die, we still did it.
We died on our terms.
Yeah, we still did it. We got out.
Yeah, we weren't slaves.
We did it. We went out on our own terms. And then Andy Serkis, I can't swim. I was literally like, what?
Yeah, and then the wave of depression came over Andy Serkis's face, which he's just so animated and so good at. I mean, just to put this in a little more context, it's basically like, what's that one prison in real life where it's on an island and it's basically
Alcatraz.
It's out there in the middle of the water, completely surrounded by water. So the only one way out is to jump. And they're all just funneling out, falling over each other, like ants, falling over a cliff or whatever, just getting out. And Andor gets swept up in it, and, he falls. And then eventually meets up with a buddy out on the beach. And then they go off into the next two episodes. Actually, they split up at the end of episode 11, but...
Yeah, I thought it was kind of amusing.
Kino Loy couldn't swim, so who knows what happens to Andy Serkis if he's coming back or not.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. Like, this show, it's like every arc ends with, several...
And a lot of the
several well-built-up characters getting eliminated.
And a lot of them died in the escape that they built up and spent some time with.
Yeah.
And they got shot.
Yeah. It's like...
Didn't make it out of the prison.
That's just it. It's like, that's what, this show, it's about humanity and rising up and all that stuff and having hope, but, boy, nothing good seems to happen to anybody.
Yeah, right. And if you had switched that around and it was, just another Anakin Obi-Wan escape thing, they would have done some, let's climb up here and, lightsabers and cut their way through, and that would have been the end of it.
And Andy Serkis can't swim, so, his character they would turn that into, like, some kind of rebel base, and he's there with a bunch of prisoners, and they all got guns, and the Empire... But no, it's like, it's really implied that, Andor and his buddy just completely luck out that they run into a couple aliens with a ship. Everybody else probably drowned or got round up, Yeah. So it's, but, hey, I mean, that's realistic, kind of, in that situation.
And it's just,
if there was really a prison like that and everybody got out, that's probably what would happen.
Yeah, and it's not doing the, the more pulpy Star Wars where, I mean, again, don't get me wrong, like, obviously, Jedi and Sith, I love all that shit, right? And you get a certain amount of drama with that, but we've seen that story 1,000 times. So it's nice to be able to see, normal people in the Star Wars universe, how they would react and how they would go about escaping a situation like this. I can't swim. I mean, it was probably a bigger surprise because if he was a Jedi, who cares? You just use the Force and, float across the water.
Yeah,
it's not even a big deal.
There'd be some trick to it, but he's just like, I can't swim.
He can't swim.
And then you never see him again.
So you never see him again. He could have died for all we know. We don't know.
Yeah.
And that just adds stakes.
But you know what this reminded me of, though? What's the movie? It was the movie with Frank Sinatra.
I got no idea.
Von Ryan's Express.
Yeah.
So Von Ryan's Express, this really good movie about a bunch of soldiers. An American guy played by Frank Sinatra gets put into a prison. He's a pilot, and he gets put into this prison camp with all these British guys.
World War II.
Yeah, and they get this opportunity, so they take it, and they escape, and they commandeer this train. And they're taking this train, like, all the way through Europe, like...
Occupied.
They're occupied Europe,
yeah.
Trying to slip past all these Germans to get to Switzerland. But then there's this one other character who, the whole time he's saying, if only one man gets out, it's a victory. So...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Their mentality is it's less about escaping than it is about, just disrupting the Germans. Even if we all die, if only one person gets out, we still win. And that's what Andor says. He gets up there and he's like, one way out, It's like, hey, even if we all die, we still did it. We got out.
And I'm sure that the writers, like the Gilroys, must have seen Von Ryan's Express, or at least The Great Escape, which is another
The Great Escape
famous movie where,
same concept.
Yeah,
there.
POWs escaping.
I always liked Von Ryan's Express better, though.
It is a better movie, I think. But spoilers, Frank Sinatra dies, but everyone else gets away.
Not everyone else, but
okay,
more than two, which is what happens in Andor.
A lot of people, and more than The Great Escape. Everyone basically dies.
But they address it too. They return to Andor returns to the scene of the crime, which I thought was kind of funny because he's got his box of money, and then him and his friends split up.
Oh yeah, he goes back to
where they
to
caught
Miami
him.
in Star Wars,
and the whole place seems to be abandoned, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Probably put everyone in jail.
Yeah, the Empire ruined it.
Well, there was two aliens though sleeping together there in the bed that he rented.
Yeah, and then they address it. The guy he's with is like, "Do you think anybody else got out?" And he's like, "But people need to know about this. People need to know about this."
Right. We need to expose the truth about what's going on. The ISB, the Empire.
But the way he's saying it isn't even like, "Oh, we need to expose the truth." It's like, people need to know about this. People need to know about what happened to us.
So they split up, and it's actually the one guy that follows him. He's in Rogue One, actually. His buddy, and which everyone dies in that movie, but anyway,
that's what I'm saying. Being a rebel is not glamorous.
No, and
being a rebel is a life of sacrifice, and you will probably wind up dead.
It's Star Wars, and not everyone has a lightsaber in the Force, and it's great.
It's great. It's wonderful. So that was my favorite episode.
Yeah, it was
in a show full of great episodes.
Probably my favorite episode as well.